What is the fastest way you've seen someone get fired? My first job was in a small grocery store, and my boss asked a coworker to do the dishes in the bakery, baking pans, etc. She replied, "I only do my own dishes. Somebody else put these here, so I'm not doing them. I'm serious. Fire me if you want. I won't do them." Boss says, "Okay then, don't bother finishing your shift. Goodbye." New person got access to medical records system. Week 2, looked up our boss and bragged about it. Was walked out and gone the second week. First day on the job, gave another coworker a wet willy. You not. Had a coworker explain to our supervisor how he found out this great loophole for making extra money. If a customer had exact change, he'd just pocket the cash and cancel the order on the register. I saw a coworker once make a big boobs gesture as our boss's wife walked past, with our boss walking right behind her. He was packing his stuff within 5 minutes. A colleague let a middle school kid drive the bus. Bye-bye. The guy responsible for opening the shop on Saturday morning went out and got blitzed on Friday night. He showed up to work to find his car in the lot, but the door's locked. He didn't answer the phone. Had to call the owner in to get us inside. Guy was fast asleep under his desk. He was gone before you could say hangover. I worked in a restaurant, and when the table wanted to return their Mai Tai, the server chugged it right in front of them and said, "It tastes fine." He filmed from under the door of the women's bathroom. I don't understand how it's possible to do this. Worked at a grocery store a few years ago. A new guy was hired, and on the second day of the job was caught stealing food. He would grab items off the shelves and walk to the break room and eat them, hitting on the boss's 13-year-old son. Holy moly. First day at work, he took one look at his would-be boss and declared, "I won't work under a woman." So he was shown the door. Well, at least he got what he wanted. Within 2 weeks, a new hire was found sleeping in the middle of a fort of every inventory he made. They walked him out immediately. I worked in a high school. We hired a new HS tech. He came to shadow me for a few days, and I told him, "Don't frick with money or kids, and you're golden." 2 weeks later, he was dating a high school senior, fired on the spot. What's the worst financial decision you've seen someone make? I knew someone who got a loan for their wedding, but decided to blow it all at a casino. Now they have a loan for $20K to pay off and nothing to show for it. Gambling addiction is a serious thing, and well, I do feel bad for this guy. Hopefully he gets the help that he needs. A friend of mine who is very bad with money and his girlfriend bought some sort of water filtration system from a door-to-door salesman. He has to pay something like $300 a month for this filtration system. He was all stoked because it came with a free set of pots and pans. Fast forward a year and his girlfriend has broken up with him, moved out of the house, and he's had to sell his home because he can't afford to live there. The water filtration system is now sitting in a storage unit where he still pays $300 a month for it because he's on a 2 or 3 year contract. Sorry, the details are fuzzy. We have great water quality in my area. A coworker I used to have worked every second of overtime he could for several years to save up for a house. When he applied for the house loan, he based his mortgage payment on all of the overtime he had been working. I tried to tell him that wasn't a good idea, but didn't want to hear it. He ended up divorced a few years later because his wife got tired of him always working. A guy in my fraternity got $30K for an undisclosed reason. I'm guessing a family death or something, and he bet it all on the Yankees winning one game. They lost. One game? And the Yankees? Brother, come on. A dude who owned a small convenience store in our town spent like $20,000 on fidget spinners. He was posting for like a year begging people to buy them as he would lose his business and his marriage was falling apart due to it. My supervisor took out a loan against their 401k to pay their rent because their credit cards were maxed. 2 weeks later, they bought a brand new $60K Lincoln with basically nothing down because her daughter just had a baby and I needed a bigger car for that. Ran up a credit card debt requiring bankruptcy. Once they were able to build credit again 7 years later, they proceeded to run up a massive amount of debt again, but couldn't go bankrupt again, so they used debt consolidation. The debt didn't come from sudden expenses, they just needed to buy things to feel better. Put everything in his GF's name to hide assets as he owed the IRS. The GF sold his business, cashed out his accounts, and ran. My coworker has $25K in anime figurines. He's in mega debt right now. My brother's ex fell for a Craigslist scam. She found a motorcycle and the guy needed money up front to pay bills before she even saw it. We told her don't do it, it's a scam. She said she already sent $1,000. Of course, he was never able to show her the bike, and we found out from my brother after they broke up, she actually continued sending him money in hopes of getting the motorcycle. I think she was out $3K by the end. My roommate buys DoorDash almost every day. They'll maybe cook for themselves once or twice a week, but other than that, they order food in 5 to 6 times a week. I know how much they make, and I have not a clue how they can afford that. My former sister-in-law had a thriving medical practice. She got so stressed that she joined the Scientologists and started taking their classes. She opened 5 or 6 credit cards without telling my brother, maxed the cards out with hundreds of thousands in cash withdrawals, and gave it to that cult, who was vilified in their time, but in hindsight was completely right. Dr. Claire Cameron Patterson not only discovered that the true age of the Earth with his research in lead dating, but during this process, he accidentally discovered the dangers of lead contamination. Then he went, wait, we're putting this stuff in gasoline, cans, paint, etc.? He then began campaigning against lead in everyday products. In particular, he targeted the gasoline industry. You can imagine how that went in the courtroom. He was vilified, excluded excluded and slandered against, but kept pushing for lead to be removed from gasoline. Took decades, but obviously lead was removed from gasoline almost entirely by 1990. Nan Britton had an affair with U.S. President Warren G. Harding in the early 1920s. Harding died of a heart attack in 1923, and Britton tried to sue for child support. She was ridiculed in court. In 2015, Ancestry.com did a DNA analysis on Harding's and Britton's descendants. Nan was telling the truth. Lindy Chamberlain, the "a dingo killed my baby" lady. She was vilified, mocked, and ridiculed across the world. She then spent 3 years in prison before it turned out she was actually telling the truth the whole time, and a dingo did in fact kill her baby. Johnny Lydon, when he said on the radio that Jimmy Savile was dodgy, the guy who came up with the theory of Pangea and continental drift. The man with learning difficulties, sadly accused of being the cause of the Great Fire of London, said he never did it, but after his execution, proven he wasn't even in the country at the time. Wrote an econ paper in 2007 about the housing market crashing, and was told housing market never crashes. The McDonald's coffee burn incident. She didn't want it to be a spectacle, she just wanted her medical bills paid. She wanted her medical bills paid because she had third-degree burns on her Coffee should not be that hot. It was ultimately the lawyers and the jury that determined the payout, and she had no say in any of it. Rose McGowan for calling out Harvey Weinstein. Adding to this, Courtney Love, who commented on what he was up to years ago. That Roman that gave Jesus Vinegar to drink. Many medieval Christian writers saw the offering of Vinegar wine as an act of torture rather than mercy. But turns out that the Roman military gave their soldiers a water/Vinegar mix to drink. So the Roman soldier shared with Jesus some of what he had to drink. Jon Snow. He tried to remove the handle of a water pump in London that was drawing its water downstream from a sewage pipe. People who drew water from that pump caught cholera. What's the worst reason you hooked up with someone? Late to the game, but had a friend in college who shared a resemblance to me. We'd go to parties and introduce ourselves as brother and sister the whole night. Really play the part. Then we'd end each night making out furiously in front of everyone. No shot, dude. That's so funny. She was hitting on my friend and he wasn't down, so he said, "Save me." Reverse wingman, lol. Was offered a box of dozen donuts in exchange for my sex. She only ended up getting me half a dozen. Still feel some way about it. We both had the same name and thought it would be fun to call out our names in the heat of it. Almost dated in high school. Had a falling out in college and didn't talk for years until we both attended a mutual friend's wedding. We were the only single people there and neither wanted to go home empty-handed, so we didn't. He cheated on me with his roommate's girlfriend, so obviously his roommate and I hooked up for some revenge. It was excellent and I regretted nothing. I felt unattractive after my ex cheated on me and I needed someone to tell me I wasn't. Simple democracy. My balls told me to, and since they outvoted me 2-1, I really had no choice. In exchange for discounts on office supplies and Outback Steakhouse gift certificates, because I was temporarily homeless and it meant I could have a shower and a comfortable bed for the night. I did not tell the men I was homeless. I had some pride, lol, and I only did it a couple of times. We call this hobosexual. Men of Reddit. What's the biggest green flag in a woman? Fighting and or approaching conflict in a healthy manner. During one of my early fights with my GF, now wife of 15 years, I was surprised that even though she was still mad, she clearly said, "I'm upset when you did X because of something in her past. I know that past event is not your fault, but I'm still feeling some kind of way. We should talk later after I've processed a bit." Way different than my past relationship. No silent treatment, no hiding emotions and exploding later. Firm about feelings while taking accountability. Honest apologies. It's great. We still have conflicts and even yell from time to time, but they are productive in the end. Thanks for gold. Us versus the problem mentality. AKA, instead of blaming you or herself for her issues that inevitably will arise, she communicates with you in a way that focuses on what the issue is and how you can work together to solve it. Emotional intelligence that will apply for men as well. Anyone who takes the time to wonder why they feel a certain way versus acting on it out of instinct is a gift. I've never been in a relationship before like this in my life. We can talk anything out peacefully, no arguments in years, no insults or hurt feelings. Emotional intelligence is the key. Straight up kindness. I met my wife 11 years ago and fell in love pretty quickly. She's the kindest person I've ever met. Doesn't matter the situation, she approaches all of them with a serenity that I have never been able to match. Every dog gets love. Every baby gets ogled at. You need some help? She's there with work boots on. Homeless? She keeps snacks and cash on hand to give out. I'm having a bad day? She'll go above and beyond to make sure I know that I'm loved. She asks questions about you to genuinely understand who you are as a person, not just what you do for work, and other surface level topics. When I cried in front of her, my cat died, she just hugged me and comforted me. Exes before would ridicule me. Being capable of admitting when you're wrong. Asking me if I want to be Little Spoon. Yes, I want to be the Little Spoon. Little Spoon rocks. P.S. She asked me this on our first night together. I knew right there she was special. An ability to acknowledge her flaws and shortcomings. Someone who cannot see them or projects them on others others is an absolute relationship killer. Wants to play Legos with me. What's something fricked up you witnessed during your childhood but didn't realize the severity of until you were older? My dad and I used to play Spaceship, and to get the spaceship started, I'd have to blow into a tube to hear the electronic beat. It was his DUI test to start the car before they started putting cameras in the cars. Glad he's sober these days. I was sitting on the couch at 5 years old when my parents started arguing and my mom threw a red book at my dad. Just thought it was a fight. Turns out it was their pre-divorce fight after my dad caught her cheating. Didn't learn about the cheating until I was 16 and only recently learned that it was a brick that she threw at him. Oh, I remember being really young and watching cartoons while my parents were fighting and my mom stuck her fingers down her throat and made herself throw up on my dad. Holy crap, this thread is wild. One of the times my dad left, he would send me beautiful letters with the envelope decorated in different cartoons and cute drawings. I was maybe 9 at the time and clueless. A few years later, I realized he would decorate the envelopes to take attention away from the red inmate mail stamp on it. Pretty sure when I was 7, I was an accomplice to robbery. I was supposed to stay the night at my friend's house. Her parents said we're stopping to look at a house real quick. I didn't think anything of the adults' all-black outfits. They were still professional. I didn't think it was odd that they had me go through the bathroom window to unlock the door, but they said the realtor forgot to give them the key. This was such a beautiful, wealthy home. They didn't take anything large, but I did notice the mom leaving with a lot more jewelry on than she came in with. She said she left it last time they were there. I grew up in foster care. I was invited to dinner at a friend's house, and I wanted to help their mom with dinner. I asked if I could help, and she said yep, and asked me to chop some onions. I asked where the sharps box was, and if she could unlock it so I could have a knife. Didn't realize that wasn't normal. I was not invited back. I was watching a TV show with my mom about a rocket ship, and not long after blast off, the rocket blew up. When that happened, my mom started freaking out. I remember watching her fall to her knees crying. I had never seen her like that, but I figured she was really into the show. It wasn't until I was older that I realized we were watching the Challenger launch. God, all your stories are hell. I hope you're doing better now. If one of your friends had an I know a guy moment and then called you, what would they be calling you for? Pulling Lego bricks apart, specializing in the flat ones. To ask me random geography questions. Car problems, because that's exactly what I want to do in my free time. My job, some more. To fix a friggin' computer. Slightly better than average Microsoft Excel. A few years ago, I had multiple groups of pop culture type friends calling me to come out with them for trivia night because they needed a sports guy. And I was unique in that I liked watching sports and reading comics. The phone number of the guy, because it sure is not me. The guy who knows a guy, it's something. I've actually had that a few times during the pandemic. I'm a molecular biologist with background in virology, and friends call me to bring in an expert on vaccine discussions with friends and family. It feels good to be the I know a guy. They think I can hack anything. What I can do is try to keep people from hacking my company. Trivia, hunting, taste tracks, stick fingers in air. There's a pub quiz 2 miles downwind. Which film can be summed up as nothing really happens? Nothing really happens in My Neighbor Totoro, but in a good way. That's what makes it so peaceful and relaxing to watch. Studio Ghibli movies really have something special, almost magical about them that I don't really know how to describe in words. Dazed and Confused. Good movie, but nothing happens. Not true. They get Aerosmith tickets. Top priority of the summer. Ad Astra. So forgettable I watched it twice by accident. I did this too. Watched it with my dad, and we both realized halfway through that we'd already seen it. That film with Brad Pitt where he goes to a remote planet to find his father, finds his father, and then comes back. Ad Astra? For me, it's definitely lost in translation. I was so disappointed in that movie the first time I saw it. I think I may have watched it too young, but for some reason the movie always stuck with me. So I recently decided to rewatch it, and I'm actually really enjoying it. Warhol's 1964 movie Sleep. Over 5 hours loop video of a guy sleeping. Burn After Reading is my favorite type of WTF actually happened here movie. The Blair Witch Project. One of my favorite Family Guy gags is Brian working as a seeing eye dog and explaining the film to a blind guy. Nothing's happening, nothing's happening, something about a map, nothing's happening. It's over. A lot of people in the audience look pissed. The Breakfast Club. They go to detention. Then the jock and the stoner get the girls and the smart kid does everyone's homework. Star Wars Christmas Special. Napoleon Dynamite. What are you talking about? Uncle Rico threw a football clear over them mountains. What's the best response to "you're gay"? You wish. This is my go-to response. Holds his hand. We're gay. Only in your wettest dreams. Why? You looking for a top? Always works. IMHO. Was that a statement or a question? Some dude called my nephew gay because he's extremely awkward. Well, when the dude called him gay in front of everyone, my nephew said, "I know, that's why you and I are sleeping together." Damn. No, I'm Patrick. Your dad sure doesn't have a problem with it. I'm not gay. My boyfriend is. I am. I used this in high school and the kid bullying me had no second word. I'm not gay, but he could not even form a sentence. He completely lost his crap. So is your wife. How can you be homophobic? Your wife is gay. What's the best real life example you've witnessed of someone destroying their own happiness? Young guy at work. He's in his early to mid 20s, is married with 2 young kids and a third on the way. This new girl at work has been after him so hard. He was seriously tempted and conflicted. We all tried to talk him out of it. Did he really want to throw away his family and life for this? Do you really think this new girl is going to stick around once all the drama starts when you guys get caught? He told us all one day that he finally told new girl to leave him alone. He was happy with his wife and she didn't stand a chance. 3 weeks later, he was sleeping in his his car because he went for New Girl after all, got caught, kicked out, and served with divorce papers, and New Girl ditched him once he got depressed over it. I know a guy who gambled away $8 million his grandfather left him. He inherited at 21. It was gone by 23. He's actually an incredible good guy too. That's what kills me. This entire thread is pretty much affairs and addictions, and losing large inheritances. Friend who got married because he didn't want to break it off, and thought he would just be better off. He's dying a slow death. Very good friend of mine, very good person, works hard, married a monster. He hasn't smiled for nearly 30 years now. My ex-friend who took the unconditional love of her husband to treat him like dirt because he always forgave her. When he finally stopped 10 years later, she was shocked that she was divorced and whined about how her life was shattered and happiness stolen. I'm still so very proud of him for getting away. Dude got feelings for a girl he knew for some time. She was kind, caring, and genuinely a good person. They texted a lot and stuff, and she seemed really into him. So he decided to cut her off while chasing after a mentally unstable toxic girl who just uses him only and reaches out to him when she wants something. All while constantly whining that nobody wants him and that women are all backstabbing who can't be trusted. Me. I turned down an interview for a great job as a trainee because I thought I had something better. I ended up in a company where I quit a month after based on bullying from coworkers and a horrible chef. I should have taken it, and no, I couldn't go back to the other one. What infamous movie plot hole has an explanation that you're tired of explaining? The Matrix Reloaded scene where Neo is talking to the architect. The screens behind them are not other ones. It is the predictions the machines are making on Neo's responses. Most of the scenes are incorrect in those predictions, except for when Neo must choose between Trinity and all of humanity. The machines nailed that response on all screens. There was a whole topic on the front page a while back about the Truman Show, asking about what happens when Truman wants to sleep with his on-screen wife. Is that upsetting to her because she's just an actress? How do they avoid showing it on TV? People offering all kinds of explanations like he was raised not to know what sex is. I thought I was going crazy because not only does the movie directly address this, two guys watching the show complain that the camera always cuts away when Truman and his wife go to bed, but it's an actual plot point in the movie that she's trying to have a baby with him so they can start Truman Show Phase 2, and his obsession with a woman they kicked off the show years ago is ruining the director's plans. How does Sarah Connor know which button to press to crush the Terminator in Terminator 1984? Because she accidentally presses it a few minutes earlier and it set the crusher off. It's what led the Terminator to find them. In Memento, people always wonder how a guy with short-term memory loss remembers he has memory loss, but he's conditioned himself to say it, just like Sammy was subjected to conditioning in the flashbacks. One of Charles Foster Kane's servants was outside his bedroom when Kane said Rosebud. The door was wide open. The dialogue later confirms that a butler heard Kane's dying words and reported it to the paper. Friends, how did they pay for that apartment on their salary in New York? The very first episode, Monica mentions that her grandma owned the apartment and she would never be able to afford it otherwise. On watching The Sixth Sense, it may seem completely improbable that Bruce Willis's character didn't realize that he was dead, yet it's explained right there in the movie. Ghosts see only what they want to see. I'm so late to the party, but legally blonde. OMG, a dumb blonde sorority girl studied for the LSAT for a summer and aces it? BS. No. The point is that Elle Woods was never a dumb blonde. She was always brilliant. Literally, the first scene is her interrogating the salesperson and catching them in a lie because she was observant and smart. Rather, Elle was pigeonholed by the circumstances of her looks and her privileged upbringing to pursue a vapid life. While inspired by the wrong reasons, it results in her breaking the mold she was confined in so that she is able to reach her full potential. In Jurassic World, Claire didn't outrun the T-Rex in heels because it wasn't chasing her. The dinosaur was conditioned to equate the flare with feeding time, so it was patiently following her to an anticipated meal. The situation is similar to how zookeepers can have limited interaction with lions and bears. Toy Story. Buzz stops moving in front of humans but doesn't think he's a toy. His delusion is the whole point. It's what drives Woody crazy. He tries explaining it to him. You are a toy. Wait, I can do that better. You are a toy. There we go. I'm not good at the voice, but I sure can yell. The first rule of Fight Club and their growing numbers of members is because it is meant to teach the members to break rules. What instantly ruins a hamburger for you? A slice of raw tomato. That's disgusting. More of a meatball than a patty. I see you've had my dad's Bulgars. Assuming everything is fresh and nothing is spoiled, a cold patty, towering height, sogginess, abnormal height of a burger. That stuff is for looking, not eating. When I take a big old bite and the whole thing just ejects out the back. When you're chewing and the meat has a hard bit in it like a piece of bone or something. Ugh. Those stupid TikTok cheese sauces. The price for a frickin' sandwich that until recently was one of the cheapest things to eat. The bun to burger ratio, it's got to match. If that burger is too small or the bun is too small, it just destroys the experience. Fat ass tomatoes. When the cold condiments are hot. Pickles, lettuce, etc. Lettuce is not a condiment. Hair. A hair in my burger shuts down my appetite. I know I'm in the 1% here because a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I can't stand pickles on burgers. Not a fan of pickles in general, really. I don't get it. Pickles are so goddamn goddamn good. I just don't know. What has simultaneously got worse and more expensive? Cable television, more commercials, channels upon channels of nonsense, ridiculous monthly bills. Shoot, what hasn't? Costco hot dog. If you raise the effing hot dog, I will kill you. Figure it out. Netflix. Streaming in general. Netflix the most because they were the first, but it used to be you had one or maybe two services and could watch damn near anything anytime. Now there's like 50 services and nearly everything that they have is exclusive, and when you want to watch a certain movie or show, you have to first Google to find out what service it's on, see if you even have access. Hot Pockets. They used to be pretty good, even cooked in a microwave. Now they're made with worse quality bread, barely have half as much meat, don't cook well, and they cost about 50% more. All this in just 5-ish years. Rent. The price keeps climbing, the wages are stagnated, and the houses keep getting worse. A better question would be, what hasn't gotten simultaneously worse and more expensive? Because that's a harder question to answer. Cable TV. It's a dumpster fire of horrible reality TV and opinion news that you pay $200 a month for, complete dog poop. HBO. Ride shares. Chicken wings. Airbnbs. Tipping for anything. Girl wanted 20% tip to hand me a pre-made pizza at Pizza Hut. The food you get at restaurants nowadays. Low quality, small portions, but the prices are insane. Honestly, everything. Like, what the hell is going on? People who are no longer best friends with someone. What happened? I'm not even completely sure. Our mothers have been besties since elementary school, and they had us a month apart, while we were night and day in personality-wise. And probably should have been the complete opposite. We were besties too, closer than sisters, from birth until we were 25. She had gotten married a few years before, moved a couple hours away, and had her first baby, so naturally our dynamic had shifted some, but I was still under the impression that we were as close as ever. The night she called and told me that her life had changed, she no longer had time or energy for a friendship like ours, and that she pretty much didn't want me in her life anymore. There was no falling out, we hadn't had a fight since we were teenagers, there was nothing that I could pinpoint, then or now, that led to her decision, but it broke my heart and I grieved the loss for years after. She slept with my then boyfriend, the most boring tragedy of my life. She was toxic and abusive to me for years, but I made excuses every time. The last straw was when she was incredibly cruel to one of my other best friends who was actively dying of cancer and then painted herself as the injured party. I put up with being treated like crap for 20 years, but to treat a dying woman like that, I was immediately done. We just grew apart. I think I reached out to her once to ask how she was doing and didn't really get a response, so I kind of just decided that was that. After more than 20 years of being besties, she just ghosted me. After a year of not hearing from her, despite reaching out, I asked her husband if she was okay. He was confused because she claimed to be talking to me all the time. Whatever, it hurt for a while, but she honestly brought very little to my life in hindsight. I stopped paying. Oh, this is a whole story in a sentence. After high school ended, he became too busy. I invited him over every weekend. Each time he said that he'd come, but didn't show up. After a year of him not coming, I stopped inviting him. Would bust my balls in front of attractive women to make himself look better. I was always confused because there was 0% chance of competition. There's a point where it gets old and you never look back. I lost 100 pounds. She didn't and accused me of deliberately changing. Well, yeah. The hardest part when a longtime friend stops talking to you entirely is when you don't know why. You assume that it might be a mutual friend said something about you that isn't true, but you'll live the rest of your life never knowing why. When I realized the friendship was toxic, whenever I would hang out with her, I would feel drained. I became her therapist. She just stopped talking to me in COVID. I was in her wedding and we had been roommates, but then she told me weekends were for her husband, which actually meant weekends were only for other couples. A mutual friend got married and didn't invite me to the wedding, and we never spoke again. She was an insufferable narcissist and I was too young to understand. What can a stranger do in public that will immediately make you judge them? Throw trash on the ground, drop litter, and not pick up their dog's poo. An act of kindness, especially one that doesn't benefit that person. OP didn't say it had to be negative. Scream at their partner. I thought this said scream at their printer and felt instantly attacked. Watch a video on full blast without headphones where it is clearly very inappropriate. Or scream at their kids in front of a bunch of strangers. I think it's absolutely humiliating for a child and is very telling of how they are to the child all the time. Not washing their hands after using the bathroom. Mouth open, no cover sneeze. Their cell phone etiquette. Bad or good, I will watch and judge accordingly. Saw a person unloading their groceries, just push their cart into the next parking space and drive off. The next parking space was occupied by someone who was there, about to back out, who now had to deal with the cart behind them. All the judgment. Defecate in the middle of the street. Take out their phone to film while someone is in a bad situation instead of trying to help or call for help. Speakerphone call. Those 3 words. Let their children run freely in a crowded parking lot. I'm probably one of the most non-judgmental people you will ever meet, but if my brakes get tested because you are not paying attention and your kid runs in front of my car, my inner Karen will come out. You have been warned. Get in people's way to film a TikTok. These people have a small section of hell reserved for them, and they will all attempt to film it for clout. How did you come out of poverty or being broke? Finished grad school, got a decent paying job, but continued to largely live as if I was broke. That broke mentality stays with you, man. Live like I still live paycheck to paycheck. Live like you're still paycheck to paycheck from your first job. Married my way out of it. I had no idea her family were doing well because they lived so frugally, but when I moved in with them to save money after marrying her, as they put it, I was put in charge of managing everyone's bills and credit cards. When I saw my father and mother-in-law's bank accounts, I at first thought it was a mistake, but when I raised it with my wife, she was like, no, that sounds normal. I nearly fainted. I know for bloody sure that their grandkids are going to want for nothing. Being at the right place at the right time and talking to the right people. How can you be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't know how to play the social game and have a lot of luck, it sadly isn't going to happen. I grew up with drug-addicted/alcoholic parents. I've worked every day since I was 16 and stay far away from my family. My wife and kids are my rock and keep me working hard and pushing to be better. Pro tip, leave your small town and never look back. Take control and grab life by the horns. I went back to school at 24 to get a degree in CS and got an internship at a big tech company and converted to a full-time offer at the end of the internship, and now I make insane money. I worked full-time with a lot of mandatory overtime, but during the entire period I was in college. It was brutal, but ended up being worth it. Grew up poor. I'm good at learning, and my country has affordable education. Getting into university is a matter of getting a diploma from the right level high school, which I did. I then went to university and got a good job. I now pay more in taxes than my education cost the government. It should be that simple anywhere. Might sound harsh, but I dropped the group of people I was hanging with. They all had no aspirations or drive to do anything or get out of the small town we grew up in. I knew that if I stayed with that circle of people, I wouldn't go or do anything with my life. That was 8 years ago now. I got a college degree, I have my own house, and I make $120,000 a year. Everyone back at home that I left still isn't doing anything. Hard work, saving every penny you can, rob a bank, take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves, make friends in the right places. Bruh, if you find out, let me know. I thought that as long as you work as hard as you can, you'll have a good life, but boy was I wrong. What did you get fired for? Our store was going out of business, and I was too negative about the store closing, aggressively squeezing breakfast muffins. I was a few days into working at McD's, and someone complained I gave them a muffin that was too hard. They bake them at like 3 a.m. and sit in a warmer all day. This is before they had the full bakery menu, so I think muffins was the only thing baked and maybe cookies, so my manager told me to squeeze them before I hand them out. Me being a dumb teenager, squeezed the crap out of those muffins and got another complaint. They stopped scheduling me. Haha. Caught the boss stealing, so he fired me. His words versus mine, and it didn't go my way. I just stopped working and began only attending meetings. Lasted almost 9 months that way before they let me go. The company's time clock software ran off the computer's time, so when I was late, I would just close the software, change the time back to before shift starts, and then clock in and change it back. The supervisor who showed me the trick fired me after I told him to stop being a bitch and fire me. A day or two later, he saw me pulling in late, and when he went over the time info that day, it showed me clocked in on time. He knew why. I was fired after a month in my first job at a local pizza joint when I was 16. They called me during the Super Bowl and said I had to come in. I told them that I was out of state without a car, so no way I could make it. They said I should have known this was one of the busiest days of the year and I should have stayed in the area. I came in to work my next shift and they just gave me my paycheck and said they had to let me go for not being a team player. 10 years later, I was fired from a job in the tech because I refused to move out of state. This one hurt a lot more. Being the last hired when they instituted layoffs. 1970s, yes, close to the edge tour. I had my tickets and I had the request approved for time off. They changed their mind at the last minute and would not let me off. Left anyways and was genuinely surprised when I got back on Monday and they informed me that I was fired. I got fired for slacking off and underperforming at work by taking my legally required lunch. I got fired but then luckily rehired thanks to my union because my manager confronted a shoplifter 4 times her size and the guy started to beat her. I, along with other coworkers, intervened, pinning him to the ground till cops arrived. The next day, store reps came in and told me I shouldn't have intervened and let me go. Corporations don't care about employees, they care about getting sued by shoplifters. I was a terrible employee. Been there, somehow was never fired. I put too many toppings on people's sandwiches when I worked at Subway. Not all heroes wear capes, some wear aprons. Thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Peace!